Thanks, George. Very kind words. Thanks. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me along. Um, yeah, well, as it says on screen, I'm an architect with about 20 years experience. Worked with George. It was some time ago. I think we'll leave it at that. Um, I've worked for various types of practices, large practices in London, doing public buildings, apartment buildings, various different sectors, but moved to Somerset about 2012 and currently work at Salmon Planning. We're a relatively small office team of about 10 people, been based in the Southwest for about 25 years now. It's quite an established firm. We've got offices in Wells, in Somerset, and Exeter as well. We kind of work mainly for private domestic clients in the architectural sector, some developer-led projects as well. But the planning arm to the company brings in a lot of work that's across all sectors, planning strategy. But having architects and planners in-house, it means that every project starts from a combined architectural and planning appraisal. So we look at the risks and the opportunities, not just in a creative sense, but in a kind of planning policy sense as well. So we collaborate together, but it has been interesting how Gendo has impacted on that, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot more. Okay, so I'll share this now. Let me know when that comes through.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the case study project. So it's a house where it was an agricultural barn. It's going to be a house for our clients. Not far from the office, actually. It's just outside of Wells. And they bought the land, which is an orchard land, with a previous planning permission, which we'd got for the previous landowner, to convert that agricultural building into a dwelling. But they didn't want to build out that design. They wanted to go back into planning with a bespoke design dwelling. So the position of the barn, the house, sits right at the bottom of this hill, and the Mendip Hills are further to the north. So you've got these amazing views from the orchard site. And you can so the picture in the middle is a view from the halfway down the orchard of the barn at the bottom of the hill. And then the view on the right is actually looking back up through the orchard, because there was a large ash tree at the roadside of the site. So from there, they're kind of seeing all their land back up to the roadside. So that ash tree kind of marks that's their domain, kind of thing. So we had this idea that because the space is orientated by these rows and rows of apple trees, so if the building somehow responded to that view back up the site, that would be quite a special thing. So the process was us sitting down with them, talking them through it. But that's the reality of the sketch process.
Yeah.
You can't just kind of show them that. But you kind of want to show them a bit of it, because it shows that you've thought about it. And this is often late at night in the studio, you're kind of working through these ideas, and but then you try and present it a bit more like something that they can actually understand. So you move through kind of sketch design, because remember, this is still quite early on in the process. We've taken their brief, we've got their spatial brief of how many bedrooms and that sort of thing, but we want the architectural brief. We want to give them the architectural excitement of the project, not just talk about how many bedrooms it's got. So I like to do internal perspective sketches. So this is, the whole building's orientated around this double height space, which looks back up towards the orchard. So when you come into the house, you get that view back up towards the ash tree that we talked about. And they're kind of like these sketches. They can kind of just about see what we're talking about and get a feel for it.
Yeah, you need a good romantic architecture sketch. That's part of the experience, isn't it?
Exactly. But it kind of, they're so quick. That's the thing. They're such a quick thing to do, and they really, really get across the essence. But, clients will get involved, but they'll then start thinking, well, what does it look like? How, So I can do a live run through the Gendo in a sec, but these are just the images of the case study. So this was a very, very simple SketchUp model, which was, on this occasion, this was taken into Enscape just to add the grass and the materials and things like that. And then the first output image from Gendo was this, which, I mean, we were amazed. It was absolutely incredible. The depth of, the image of the kitchen space behind the glazing, and it was fantastic. And then we noticed there was a few kind of funny things going on. That the chimney was a little bit mirror-like, so we did a little bit, a very, very tiny bit of kind of post-production in Photoshop, but again, kind of 5-10 minutes work just to tidy up the chimney element and put a bit of glazed balustrade on the balcony. But that was the image that the client said, well, if it looks like that, then I'm happy. And that was only after, I think it was about an hour-long design meeting, something like that. But for all the sketches help sell the design, I think the Gendo image was absolutely invaluable. Shall I switch to Gendo to run through?
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
please. See how to do that. Right. So this is what I wanted to see if. Let's go back to that one. So this is the standard process we go through. I mean, as you know, we go to the render design, and then the kind of base image, or the source image, not the source image, sorry, the base image for the design is often a SketchUp image. So we put that in there. So I'm going to have a go now without using the Enscape step. So this is straight from SketchUp. So we may be taking a little bit longer in SketchUp to put the materials on, but not, nothing crazy. And then the image reference, I think, is a really, really powerful tool, and helps with the level of control of the output. So we put our image reference in, which we just downloaded. And then the prompts, let me copy and paste them. So black roof, timber barn with roof lights, pale timber columns, vertical timber cladding, contemporary architecture, British orchards, countryside backdrop, late summer sun, relaxed blue skies, natural trees, close hedgerow, background enclosure, hidden valley. And we usually just enhance them because the enhanced prompts are always better.
Excellent. I can see what you mean about the descriptive terminology, though. I can see that would help with the image quality for sure.
Yeah, it's just that sort of, like I say, slightly emotive words. And then what are we on? 20 seconds.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Thereabouts.
Have you changed much of your sort of internal process for using these tools now?
Design process, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think for me, the beauty of it is that it is part of the process, part of a process that we haven't really changed. I personally, I haven't changed the creative process whatsoever. I think it's a really powerful part of that process, and helps people really understand what you're trying to, not sell them, but put across to them.
Yeah.
And just, I think, the having an image that looks photoreal, I mean, that's straight from SketchUp to Gendo, which I just think is incredible. Backgrounds is something we sometimes struggle with a little bit. But I think I think that might just be because of the hedgerow that we've used in SketchUp. It kind of reads as distant
Yeah,
trees.
it's a thing we're looking to as well because, it's sort of been built with the purpose of looking for the structure as you, the designer, have designed it and sticking to that. So
Yeah.
sometimes it sticks to a lack of background a little too hard. So I think
Mm,
we'll be
mm.
finding some ways to let it be flexible in the right places around it soon too. But yeah, those are great.
But I mean, yeah, it's just, it's got all those qualities of the client was looking for a natural kind of feeling to it. They didn't want a kind of cliche log cabin, but they
Mm,
wanted something that was cozy, natural, warm. Um, we visited the site in the heat wave this summer, but they're aware that it will be February soon, and that will be a totally different feeling to the site. So, something we haven't played with is kind of seasonal imagery.
mm.
Um, what's it look like in the snow? But I think there's so much opportunity. And I think also it's not just, I think, yes, we're using it for the sort of pre-planning design process, but there's so many elements of a building that you don't really need to look at during that planning process, because whether it's the internal staircase or the soffit material or something like that, it doesn't really need to come across in the planning drawings. Um, but in the detailed design stage, well, it's fundamental. What's their staircase going to look like? What's the interiors, the finishes? I mean, we don't have interior design staff as such, but you know, there's always an overlap between architecture and interior design. So to have those images is great.
Yeah, yeah. How would you feel about clients, I guess, coming to you with images like this? Is that helpful or perhaps distracting?
Uh, from the off, like kind of from the start, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it's the clients with the graph paper and the room sizes that's more difficult to because I think once you've seen a design, it's quite hard to unsee a design. And I think once you've seen a house layout, it's quite hard to
Mm,
unsee it. So um, I don't really have a problem with. I think it's getting to the bottom of why they've chosen that image, and I think this is kind of symptomatic of the whole kind of Pinterest and
mm.
client see an image on Pinterest. I want one of those with no knowledge or understanding of what might have gone into that, how to get that outcome. It might be hugely expensive. It might be, might take an awful lot of time and craft to get a building like that. So you try and get to the essence of what they're looking for. And it's kind of what I always, whenever they talk about a brief, whenever a client talks about a brief, yeah, we need to know how many bedrooms, we need to know, you know, a utility room, a laundry room, whatever it is. But there's more to a brief than that. There's the architectural brief, and some clients might find it hard to express that in words. So, pictures, as long as it's a something like this, then that's fine. But if it's a one of those, then that's maybe a different
Yeah, yeah,
different
yeah,
matter.
yeah, nice. And I guess a slightly more future-facing question then, like, what would an ideal Viz workflow look like, for you guys? Obviously using Gendo now, but how might that look more full-bodied?
Um, I mean, I think something. I guess there's a few sort of answers to it. I mean, I guess everyone's in a slight kind of existential crisis at the moment. That it's a tool. It's a tool for us to use, and it's brilliant. Uh, I can kind of see a future where clients take their own site from Google Earth and type in their own prompts, and it comes up with a building. But I'd like to think, or I hope, that the value of working with experienced professionals or architects is still valued. Um, but as a kind of starter, why not? Um, but I also think and I think that the contextual thing I think is a really interesting thing. I mean, I'm sure perhaps city centre designs, there might be access to existing models of cities, so you can, the output can be much more contextually based. Whereas at the moment, and it might be just symptomatic of the sort of projects that we do, um, it's a little bit blank canvas, kind of infinite canvas. Whereas having a little bit more site contextual reality would be really interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, like I just touched on earlier, I think we'll use it. I mean, very, very rarely would we ever use visuals for the kind of detailed design process. Again, purely because that's such such a slog, such a lot of work to go through in that detailed design process to then start doing 3D visuals as well. But if it's as much part of the process as the early design stage, then why not? You can quickly do some interior visuals, and that will help answer so many of the client's questions.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's just that it's bridging the understanding, and it helps everyone.
Yeah, awesome. I had a really interesting way to think about sort of AI and the future and the role of, lots of different industries, but obviously in
Yeah.
architecture. And it was to think about it like, what would change about your job if you had 1,000 Einsteins in the room with you? And I was thinking about it, and I thought that a lot of the design process is still needs the architect managing it, talking, navigating all of these problems and complex things, contextual and subjective, and that
Mm.
AI can help you
Mm.
with lots of those steps. And we're looking at Gendo and lots of different ways to do that. But I think
Mm.
the architect's still fundamental in all of that to be the expert, making sure that it is still fit for purpose and actually useful.
Yeah, I think so. Is even it might become a kind of go between, but it's sort of I think whilst clients, we've talked about the level of trust that clients need to have with architects, the amount of trust they need to have with an AI engine or whatever. I think for clients to wholeheartedly just go all in with an external AI consultant, whatever you want to say, I think that's going to be quite a leap. I mean, who knows? But I think I hope people will still value the human kind of touch and experience, and yeah, continue to be a tool that helps the process, and